Hello and welcome to Cheshire Audio. Now, I'm starting another series here. Still going to be doing the retro reviews, still be doing the tweakery videos, still doing standard reviews of new product, still doing the news reports if there's anything interesting comes up. But I sort of randomly did a video about sort of albums I can't listen to anymore, or tracks I can't listen to anymore from 30 plus years of sitting in dem rooms, hearing them over and over again, however good they are, however much I like the track. After a certain amount of listens, you just can't do it anymore. I think I think it becomes associated with work, and I think that's the reasoning for it. After that, I actually got quite a few emails from people saying, why don't you do albums that you do like, things that you do listen to? I think it's quite a good idea, and I don't know why anybody would be interested in my musical taste, particularly. It's a bit slightly strange musical taste, I suspect, really. So I'm not going to just sort of choose albums that I think are good demo albums, because I think it's dangerous to listen to an album because it's a good demo album if it's got good bass or good treble or good whatever. I think if you watch the speaker setup video, I've got certain albums that I use for setting up speakers, for getting the position right. So you're sure that they're nice and clean and the bass isn't overwhelming the room or too little or whatever. For just the initial setup, I've actually got about 3 different albums I use, and they're actually listed in the speaker setup. And it's I use Fleetwood Mac Landslide, the track. I use Italian X-Rays, I think it's called Earthrise or something, or sort of Moon. I should have checked this, but something like Earthrise. There's a track on there which is just instrumental, and it's got a dropping bass line, and that's great for setting up speakers because you can sort of move them around until it's clean all the way down. And I also use Thomas Dolby, which has just got a very dynamic drum beat on it. That's the Flat Earth. I use Dissidents. So there's so for actual setup, yeah, I do. For evaluating systems, no, I don't sort of choose stuff, like I say, with a good bass line, because I think you want it to play music. You don't want it just to be a party piece. So pretty much all the music I would choose to listen to set things up. They're not necessarily well recorded, actually, some of them. So I'm just going to do one album per video. And the first album I'm going to talk about, I've talked about before on here briefly. I think I showed it in a video. I can't remember what the video was. I picked up and showed it at some point randomly, going off on a tangent somewhere, which was completely unrelated to what I was talking about. But the first album's going to be David Crosby, if I could only remember my name. The reason I've chosen this, I'm a big Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young fan. So, in all the various guises, the Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, whatever else. Normally, I tend to find people from bands who do stuff on their own, thinking Lennon, McCartney, George Harrison, Simon and Garfunkel, people like that. When they go off on their own, they tend to not quite pull it off somehow, because they sort of work as a team, a bit like Lennon and McCartney. Sort of, Lennon would stop McCartney going too twee, and McCartney would stop Lennon being too angry, and you got this fine balance in between. When they went off on their own, then it all went a bit wrong. And you would expect it with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. This, I would say, is probably the best Crosby, Stills and Nash album of all, even though it's not actually called as such. The reasoning for it is that basically they're all on there. There's only Stephen Stills isn't on this, so we've got Crosby, Nash and Young, plus. And if you're looking on the actual inner sleeve on here, pictures of various people on here, we've got Joni Mitchell, who does backing vocal on a couple of tracks. We've got Grace Slick from Jefferson Airplane, who's a backing vocal on something. Jerry Garcia, who plays on quite a lot of the tracks from Grateful Dead. And we've got, who else is there? There's loads and loads of people. David Geffen's involved in it. Where is he? There's a chap from Quicksilver Messenger Service, which his name escapes me for the moment. can't see him. Is it Gary Burden? Yeah, but anyway, there's a huge sort of load of players on this who are all brilliant. And just the whole album, it is very Crosby, Stills and Nash, very, very much so. It's got that sort of. It's a 1997. It was 51 years old, but it's got that sort of very free feel to it. How you categorise it, I don't know. It's kind of folk, kind of rock. I've heard it described as freak folk. I think there may have been drugs involved. I wouldn't like to say one way or the other, but I think there may have been. And there's an awful lot of experimentation goes on the production, on the actual desk. I think there's an awful lot of fiddling with phase and things moving around and whatever. There's lots and lots of layers going on. On quite a basic setup, it sounds amazing on whatever you put it on, but on a quite a basic setup, you get the sort of vocals and you get all the harmonies and all this sort of thing going on. The better your setup gets, you start to pick out things off in the distance. You get this very 3D effect of things being messed about with the phase wires on the desk. So things almost circling around your head on it and things. But yeah, it's absolute genius. There isn't a bad track on it. Very much of the deja vu sort of era, Crosby, Stills, Nash sort of feel to it, really. I've only recently spotted Joni Mitchell singing in the background. I noticed she was on it, but I just assumed she was at the recording and just had been given a credit. But you can actually hear her very clearly off in the distance on one of the tracks. If you get that was on, what system was that on? It was about £140,000 worth of Tom Evans kit. And there she was stood over in the corner, and I'd never actually noticed her before. So it's one of those albums that the more you play it, the more you hear. It's just one of those great albums for late evenings with a glass of wine, turn the lights down, and it's just got everything, really. Absolutely love it. And many thanks to the customer who introduced it to me probably 15 years ago. I'd never come across it before. I'd never come across it, but love it. Yeah, really great album. So recommended, #1. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a like, and I'll see you in a future video when I'll may do another one of these. We'll see. See what people think. Okay, thank you very much.